Hey everyone, my name's Andy. I'm the product lead at Intruder. As the product lead, it is my job to make the platform and the product that you're all using as awesome as possible. So today I'm going to run you through some of the new releases that we've had over the last 3 months and some of the stuff we've got coming up shortly. So I want to touch now just on a little bit of some of the cool stuff that we've released. I say cool stuff because I think it's cool. Feel free to tell me otherwise if you'd like. I'm always willing to hear feedback from customers and trial users. So one of the first things that we've launched this quarter is our new Drata integration. Drata, for those of you who don't know, is a compliance automation framework and compliance automation tool. What it allows you to do is if you're going through SOC 2, ISO 27001, any of the kind of standard regulatory compliance frameworks, they have a solution that automatically hooks into your different systems, cloud accounts, and other providers, and just allows you to automate the compliance process. So at Intruder, we now have an integration with Drata, which means that every time you run a vulnerability scan, at the click of a button, you can send that vulnerability report to your compliance automation tool, Drata in this case, and you already have that evidence for your ISO 27001 or SOC 2 compliance. We use Drata ourselves. Recommend giving them a look if you're looking to get SOC 2 or ISO 27001 anytime soon. We also implemented Azure DevOps integration. So this allows us, previously we've had Jira, we've had ServiceNow, GitLab and GitHub integrations. So when we find an issue, they can be automatically sent to those ticketing systems to allow you to follow up with your ongoing vulnerability management process and remediation process. We've introduced Azure DevOps as well, which is now allowing you to create work items within Azure DevOps for each issue that's discovered. We also have implemented what we're calling geolocation scanning. What that means is you can now choose where your scans come from, which region they come from. So there's a couple of benefits to this. One is if most of your infrastructure is hosted in the US or hosted in Asia Pac or anywhere else in the world, you don't just have to scan from the region that we deem, that we scan from. You can choose a region that's nearer to your infrastructure. So that should help you, with the speed of your scans. You should see a slight increase in the speed, in the time, or slight decrease in the time it takes us to complete those scans. And secondly, if you're using anything that involves geofencing or geo-blocking on your firewalls, we see this quite a lot in US healthcare organizations where their internet firewalls will block any kind of connection from systems outside of the US. If you choose a US scanning node, then we'll be able to bypass that geofencing. So again, that should help you get greater coverage on those systems. We've started to introduce security advisories within Portal. So for those of you that are on our premium or Vanguard service, you're probably aware of our rapid response service, which is carried out by our security team. Now, rapid response is when a new headline vulnerability starts to emerge. Think of your Log4 shells, think of your proxy shells, and most recently, probably the MoveIt vulnerability that started doing the rounds a few weeks ago. What we do in our security team is, even before the vulnerability scanners have started to get their checks out, we as a security team start hunting through our premium and Vanguard's assets to try and find whether there's any of those services exposed to the internet. And if there are, we raise an advisory. That advisory is now visible within the portal. It can be tracked within the portal. When you fix that advisory, you can automatically request a retest to see whether or not you have fixed the vulnerability, and our security team will go away, conduct that retest, and then you'll see the results appear in the portal as well. In the next week, you'll also see those advisories start to flow through into your reporting too. So our hope there is that your reports can be used when it comes to audits and where people are asking for actual manual hands-on intervention within your vulnerability management process. The final one, I suppose the new functionality that we've released here, where we're going to be launching what we're calling rapid remediation scans. So those scans, what we're seeing is people are running a full scan of all of their targets and they're going away and fixing them. Super cool. They then come back, run another scan to see whether or not that vulnerability moves into the fixed category that Joe showed us in his run through. Um, Rather than doing a full check or a full scan of the entire asset, what we're hoping this will be able to do is reduce the time it takes for you to do that remediation check by a factor of, I believe it drops it to about 10% of the scan time on our testing at the moment. Um, so what you can do is you can come into the portal, you can click on your issue, and then you can click rescan, and then it'll automatically kick off a scan in the background against your assets that are vulnerable to that issue, and will automatically remediate all of the ones that you have successfully fixed. So that's coming very soon. Keep an eye on Portal over the next couple of weeks, and you'll see those buttons start to appear. Final two are enhancements that we've presented. Those of you that are relatively new to Portal may not have noticed the difference. We have released new navigation and new tab system and page structure, everything that Joe just guided us through, all of the new UI and user experience, trying to make vulnerability management more accessible for people and allow people to complete their tasks faster within Portal, so they don't have to guess where they need to be within each page. It's just visible as soon as you hit that page. And the final one is, you may have seen it on Joe's dashboard, we have the highlighting which issue to fix first. So our cyber hygiene is one of the key things that we use to try and demonstrate success and progress within your vulnerability management program. And we want to make sure that you're seeing that cyber hygiene score increase up to an A plus. So we're trying to surface the vulnerability that is going to allow you to progress your cyber hygiene the easiest. So you'll see that appear on your dashboard too. I'm going to talk a little bit about CloudBot. CloudBot is the functionality that we've developed, which allows us to automatically sync systems that are spun up within your AWS, Azure, or GCP accounts, and automatically sync them with Intruder's Portal. Um, what that means is, within your teams, within your development teams, if you have multiple DevOps teams or business units, for example, or even if you just have one team where your developers or engineers have the ability to spin up systems themselves, CloudBot can import any of those internet-facing systems that they spin up into Portal, and you know for a fact that those new systems are going to fall into your vulnerability management and attack surface management processes. So it gives you that complete visibility into your internet-facing AWS, but also GCP and Azure infrastructure. The idea is it helps you save time as well. So rather than you having to go every time a new project is completed or a new project is started and going and speaking to individuals and asking them which systems have they spun up within their AWS accounts, what kind of things have they exposed to the internet, you don't need to do any of that. You can let them get on with their jobs. You can, carry on yourself, like making sure that you're focusing on the parts of the business that you want or need to be focused on. Just knowing that every time you create a new system or somebody within your engineering team creates that new system, we're going to automatically include that. It's going to flow through your standard vulnerability management process. One of the features that Joe mentioned was that auto scan targets, which you can see a little infographic of on the bottom of the image on the right hand side. If you enable that, the second that target gets imported into Portal, Intruder's Portal, we're going to kick off a vulnerability scan of it. So what you end up doing is, rather than waiting for your scheduled scans, rather than waiting for somebody to manually come in and kick off those scans, you kick off a scan within minutes of that system hitting the internet. So we're really starting to close down that window where attackers have an opportunity to compromise a system because it's been exposed to the internet with a vulnerability in it. We often hear from customers around, well, that's all great, but if I'm importing loads of targets into Portal, isn't my licensing going to go through the roof and cost me lots of money? No, absolutely not. So we don't automatically add licenses to your account with CloudBot enabled. These systems will still be imported into Intruder's Portal, but for you to be able to I suppose, add licenses to those targets, or to have those licenses available, you're still going to need to confirm and purchase those licenses. We don't want to see kind of rapid escalation or a rapid increase in your billing. Your billing will stay exactly the same if this is enabled or not enabled. You need to you have final authorization on whether you want to add those licenses or not. Finally, a little bit of an anecdote that we've heard from some of our customers. They have multiple business units, they have different teams spinning things up in AWS, and they have projects that last for a long period of time and potentially short periods of time. What they found is they use Intruder to do their internet attack surface vulnerability management. And what they found is by using CloudBot and having it enabled, they've detected a whole bunch of systems that have been exposed to the internet that were associated with projects that they know have finished. So they have completed. Um, and what that means is they can go and track down where these systems came from and switch them off. So what they end up doing is actually subsidizing their vulnerability management budget by saying that yes, we're paying Intruder X amount, but we actually end up saving those customers thousands of pounds in AWS compute costs because they're able to go away and switch things off. So, I mean, if you're spending that much money on AWS, like how does free vulnerability management sound, right? Like if we're if we're able to subsidize that cost, that's a great thing to take to your CFO if you need to go through that kind of clearance.